Thomas C. Foley is a Republican running for governor in Connecticut, and he's a very, very wealthy guy. So he worked in private investment for a while. He also was involved with running state companies in Iraq, so he was part of this massive military-industrial complex clusterfuck back in the day. But get this, he has a multi-million-dollar mansion, 2 British fighter jets, which for the life of me I can't understand why you would need that, why you would want that or anything. Even if you want to fly it and experience that, go one day to the base, call a buddy, go one day to the base and do it a couple times, whatever. But you bought 2 of them. That's just weird. He also has a $5 million yacht and a vintage Ferrari. So to say that this guy is well off is the understatement of the year. In fact, he's so rich that he spent $11 million of his own money on his campaign. Stop and really let that soak in. Spending $11 million of your own money on your campaign. I don't know about you, but if I had $11 million, that would last me from now until I die. That would last me from now until I die. I would make sure of that. I'd make it so that I knew I would never have to work another day in my life. But this guy is so filthy, stinking rich that he's like, let me just throw it away on a run for office. Now, let's pause here and reflect for a second. What is it that the right-wingers tell us all the time about government handouts? What do they say about the 47%? They say they're moochers, they're parasites, they're leeches, they're good for nothing. Let's call it what it is. They're lazy people, etc., etc. Right? That's what they say. So would you like to take a guess how much our buddy Thomas Foley here paid in income tax this year? $673. Now let me repeat something real fast. He worked in private investment. He was involved with running state companies in Iraq, so he's part of the military-industrial complex. He has a multi-million-dollar mansion, 2 British fighter jets, $5 million yacht, a vintage Ferrari, and the list goes on and on. Spent $11 million on his own campaign. He paid $673 in income tax. Ladies and gentlemen, there is the real 47%. I rest my case. That's all I have to say about this. There's your real 47%. See, that's the thing that's so maddening about the right-wingers. They look at the 47% of Americans that pay no federal income tax, and they act like they are the ones who are lazy, they are the ones who are moochers. But when you dive into the details and the specifics and the reality of that 47%, what you find is, number one, that's the poorest 47% of the country. Number two, most of them are working. If they're not working, they're old people, they're veterans, they're disabled people, etc., etc. Number three, most of them are actually in red states. So the idea that this is, this is a blue state problem, a Democratic problem, that's factually incorrect. And number four, they pay all other forms of taxes. They pay sales tax, they pay state taxes, they pay local taxes, and the list goes on and on. So it's totally misleading and totally ridiculous to talk about that 47% like they're a problem. What do you want to do with that 47%? I'll tell you what the Republicans want to do. They want to raise taxes on those people, specifically the people who are the poorest in the United States of America. The Republicans say raise taxes on the poorest 50% of Americans. That's funny because you guys always say you're in favor of tax cuts. That's weird. See, that's the group of people I want to give a bigger tax cut to. That's the group of people I want to give a bigger subsidy to. That's the group of people I want to give health care to and education to, etc., etc. So who's really in favor of the little guy? Who's really in favor of the working class? Who's really in favor of the poor? You guys pretend to be, but we're the ones that are in favor of them. Meanwhile, look at Mitt Romney's group of people. Did you know Mitt Romney makes anywhere between $10 million and $20 million plus a year, mostly from investments? So how much does he pay in taxes? 15%. Now remember, the top marginal income tax rate is 39.6%. So why is Mitt Romney paying 15%? Because again, he makes most of his money from investments. So he sits on his ass all day long, and his money makes money, and he pays a lower rate than a construction worker in Cleveland who gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning, drags their ass to work when it's cold, makes $80,000 a year, and only gets 1 week of vacation time the entire year. Why is it that Mitt Romney pays a lower tax rate than the construction worker? Why is it that Mitt Romney pays a lower tax rate than the accountant? Why is it that Mitt Romney pays a lower tax rate than anybody that's working a 9 to 5 and actually fucking working? I'll tell you why. Because the rich have rigged the system. Because the billionaires and the multinational corporations and Wall Street and the investment banks and you name it, the financial institutions, the heads of the financial institutions, the CEOs, the CFOs, the owners, the list goes on, the elite, they have rigged the system against the little guy for the big guy, and then they complain that the little guys are the moochers.